We're deep in the heart of the city. And when I think about these types of backyards, like a lot of you at home probably have, you know, it seems like by default, it's grass and a few trees and some shrubs that you picked up at the local store. How long did it take for you to build this? This almost seems completely daunting to the average person to, you know, to aspire to, essentially.
We're in year 4 at this site here, and it really has taken 4 years for us to get to this point, you know? So like any big project, it was a phased plan, you know? It starts out with, okay, what's goal 1, you know? And in permaculture design, goal 1 is usually water management. So the very first thing we did on the site is figure out how are we gonna keep water on the land and sink it in? And so that's why we've gotten more and more into the idea of rain gardens. And rain gardens can actually absorb thousands of gallons of water in a small space. It's a hole in the ground that fills up with water that comes from a higher place, whether it be higher up in the landscape on a hill or off of a house. So then it has a chance to sink in. The plants that we plant in rain gardens are very adept at utilizing all that water and helping move it through their root systems and then evapotranspiring it into the atmosphere where we want all that water going.
Rather than into the storm drains. You're capturing that resource and using it for what nature intended it to be used for.
Exactly, yeah.
So for people at home who want to maybe baby step into something like this, what are some small things that people can do to start to make a difference at their own house?
Yeah, I think there's a few different strategies that make a lot of sense for most people. The first is thinking about their fence edges and just the edges of their property. So think about planting some kind of edible hedge or even a linear food forest where maybe you put in a few fruit trees and some herbs around those different fruit trees. It's so easy to grow herbs, and it's such a beautiful introduction into all the flavors and the smells that, you know, we're used to just seeing already appear on our dishes. And I think that's a really great place to get started.
It's a good introduction. So tell me about this roselle plant, because its blossoms are pretty interesting.
So many of the plants that we put in are perennials. And then when we design these landscapes, we put in annuals to fill in space and look beautiful. So the roselle is actually a hibiscus family plant. So if you've had hibiscus tea, it makes these gorgeous flowers. But if you grab them before they actually make a huge flower, the calyx, which is the area that kind of encases the flower before it opens up. In the case of roselle, it's kind of tangy and crunchy, and it lends itself well to tea or being, you know, candied by chefs or putting it on all kinds of dishes.
I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole on just all the different amazing things that you could plant. This is the kind of thing that you could apply no matter where you live, no matter what your environment is. You just have to find what thrives locally.
Absolutely.